Welcome to Imperfect Momming. Our children are constantly looking to us for examples. The term role model doesn't quite cut it here. We are shaping their worldview with every move we make. You see, it's not in the lectures we give or moments where we are actively attempting to teach them. It's in the micro movements we make, the unconscious ways in which we navigate life. We are constantly teaching our children how to show up for themselves, their friends, their future partners, and even their future children. So what can we do to ensure we are raising thoughtful, compassionate, self-aware human beings? We have to become them ourselves. No one is perfect, but we can still all be better, and it starts with self-healing. Let's get to it. Welcome back to Imperfect Momming podcast. And if you are here with us live, we are in the Raising Enlightened Children Facebook group, and we are starting our community coffee and conversations. So welcome. And today we are going to be talking about practicing the pause. And this is a perfect timing for that because we practice the pause when we're activated, right?
This is perfect timing. Hi, everybody. Yes, because we're practicing our own pause right now in our we're in our imperfectness, as Alicia's saying, with the lighting. As I'm looking at us, we literally look red.
Yeah. So I'll blame my computer.
Or orange, yeah.
Hopefully,
hopefully when if you're watching on a replay, we don't look as red and orange. And I'm like, because I'm like obsessing right now. I'm being a little OCD and being like, oh, you know what? I want to go get like a backlight and see if we can make the backlight and da 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 da. And I'm just gonna let it go and let it go.
So teach us how to practice the pause, Melanie.
All right. So anyway, welcome. Last week we on the podcast we started off talking about the halt, and then we got into a conversation, and Alicia was really unpacking for herself how, right, if I'm remembering this correctly, like how there were times that you would get triggered and then you would immediately go from that trigger to a reaction. Mm-hmm. And so this is actually something that Dr. Viktor Frankl talks about in Man's Search for Meaning. And so what happens is we have a stimulus and we react. And there's no thought process that happens between the stimulus that happens and the reaction that occurs. So
an example of a stimulus would be your kid is having breakfast at the table, maybe I'm envisioning a 3-year-old right now and just enjoying breakfast, and then picks up their milk and just tosses it on the ground.
Absolutely. That would absolutely qualify for a stimulus. And how would any of us react to that? So in this space, if it's okay, what we can do is actually, since it's unusual that we get to be together in person doing this, and we're here together in person doing it, I'm actually going to act it out with you, if that's okay. We're going to do all right. So I'm going to pretend that I'm, mommy on doing my computer stuff. And here I am, like computering, and you're going to be tapping me and really just annoying me, right? And like, mom, hey, mom. What? Right? Like something stimulating us. I could feel the irritation. For those of you that are actually watching and not just listening, you could see my facial expression, my inner tension that I was probably displaying on my face. But that irritation is like irritating, and then boom, we do the explosion. So what the example you gave was, you're in a rush, you've labeled your kid as clumsy or whatever it is with the milk and the spilling the milk, and it's like, oh, you did it again, right? And so
you could even conceive of saying something like, what is wrong with you? Mm-hmm. Like that's kind of what my body is feeling right now, and that can come out of our mouths, and we may have heard that as children, and it's damaging.
So what happens when we have that kind of reaction, right? Like just what you just said for that example of, what's wrong with you? What is the child now thinking? what's wrong with me? What's wrong with me?
Our brain loves to answer questions.
Right? Like, what's wrong with me? And then the child is going to think of many, many things that are wrong with them, right? And that they're clumsy, and then they're going to start labeling themselves. And then it's going to be this perpetuating cycle of, so when we just react like that and we don't give ourselves that moment to truly just pause, right? And I love what we were talking about yesterday, like in the pause, which is practice awareness until solution exists, was something that we had come up with. And, you know, what is it inside of, and so what is it like? So for me, what I found really helpful, especially when my kids were younger, and certainly even now, like with the older kids, it can be triggering, right? And so you feel that internal reaction. So practicing that awareness of slowing it down, taking a breath, noticing what's going on inside my body. Where is this trigger coming from? And not even necessarily needing to answer any of those questions in the moment, but really just thinking about it. And actually for me, I would do a physical pause, which for me was just putting my hand on my forehead. So finding your pause button, like where is it that you can actually physically on your body touch as a reminder, as a physical reminder to pause before you blurt out or say or do what that reaction would be. I mean, I'm even thinking about it in terms of when it's not even our kids, right? I'm thinking about road rage. I live in Los Angeles, and there can be a lot of traffic, and there can be road rage. Someone cuts you off, you know, you want to be like, what? Put your hand on the, you know, honk at the person, or blah, blah, blah. But really, when we learn to practice these tools, it's not just something that we can apply to our kids. It's something that we start to apply to life. And or when we start practicing it in life, then it becomes easier to do with our kids. So to really unpack what the trigger is usually where we would say, okay, you know, that's where you would like seek out a coach or talk to a friend, or, you know, really maybe talk to a friend. And if that doesn't help, then seek out a coach, because we're more skilled at being able to really unpack that and ask the questions to get to the underlayers. But even just on your own to practice that pause. So for you, where would that be, Alish? Like where, if you thought about, like, it could be, you know, just pushing your between your thumb and your forefinger. It could be just squeezing your thigh. It could be, you know, touching your shoulder. And like I said, for me, it's just that it's like I literally like think of this pause, but almost like where my third eye is. And it's like I push the pause, like, okay, go inside. Like, don't just react outwardly, go inside.
I've noticed that I'll do this a lot when I'm feeling activated. So if you can't, we'll adjust the computer. So I have my hand on my heart. I've noticed I've been doing this a lot lately. I've also been doing this, you know, putting my hands in prayer position over my chest, because it has a calming effect on me. And I actually it focuses me in a way that that just sitting and normally I'm not, I wouldn't say I'm as focused.
I love that. And I think what's so really important about this conversation is that we each try different things and find where your pause is that does exactly what you're saying. Because what happens is when internally our bodies are reacting in that state of angst, and then when we find something, like for me, like I said, it's pushing on my third eye, and it just reminds me, okay, go inside, take that breath. For you, it's putting either your hand over your heart or putting your hand in prayer position and pulling that in towards your chest. Whatever it is for you. And then the next step is, what do we do inside the pause? So when we're actually inside of the pause, oftentimes I will ask myself, what is my intention? Right? What is my intention? What is it that I want to teach in this moment? What is it that I want to model in this moment? And so, you know, just as an example, like my kid, right? He's a teenager, he's messy, he leaves his stuff around. So I'm someone who likes a neat house, and I don't want the candy wrapper left on the side table, right? In the family room.
I'm laughing because Xander just loves to, whatever he's eating, then the trash, just, you have evidence of all of the things he's eaten throughout the day.
Right.
Go ahead.
Right. And so for you, it's funny, what I'm noticing right in this moment is you're laughing. Like, I'm actually wondering in the moment, do you find it funny in the moment when you see it?
No, it's irritating.
Okay, it is irritating. Okay. And that is actually, like, for me, a valid question, right? Because for some people, like, what's going to trigger me is not going to trigger you. What's going to be upsetting for one person is not going to be upsetting for the other person. And that's where that internal work comes in. So when you find, like, what is my intention? So my intention is, like, what is it that I want? I want a neat house. So my intention is to communicate to my child in a respectful way that explains what my needs are. And I'm not your cleaner upper. I'm not here to serve you and clean up after you. Like, my intention is to teach you to clean up after yourself. And if that's not what you choose, and you're in your college dorm room at some point, or you're in your house with your partner, do whatever you want. But this is what I need in my house. So it's a lesson that I want to teach, not even necessarily for what you should or shouldn't do in the future, or could or couldn't do in the future, but really about my intention is to get my needs met in that moment. And how can I do it respectfully?
Yeah, before I was a mom, I used to tell my brother and my husband who lived with me that I'm nobody's mom, so clean up after yourself. Now I am somebody's mom, and you can still clean up after yourself.
And maybe they didn't have moms that were teaching them that, which is why they were still expecting. And then you were like, and I don't know, maybe your mom cleaned up after you. I don't know. But regardless, that is really the point. So whatever it is that is your trigger, whatever it is that is going to be the stimulus that gets your reaction in gear, for you to be able to push that pause button, take that moment, take that breath, slow it down, and then just ask, what is my intention and why am I doing this?
And this could really be used with anything. You gave the example of your kid leaving, garbage everywhere, or anything. You like the tidy house. You mentioned the traffic. Like, you could be at work and a coworker is saying something that activates you. Like, it could be used you could be talking to your spouse and they can activate you. Because anybody ever been activated by their spouse?
Raise one hand, raise two hands. Or just a partner,
right.
If you're not married, or like
a kid, a partner, a parent, a friend,
right.
Like a stranger. Like, there's so many things. I love the word stimulus because it doesn't cover like how we're really feeling inside. So it's a fun word to me that we call it a stimulus, but it's really just anything that's pissing you off, if you want to be frank about it. And the more that you practice this in your daily life, the more you'll be able to do it with your children, because nobody triggers us like our kids. It's what happens if we have unhealed childhood stuff. Our kids are going to trigger all of those things. They know the buttons. They don't know they know the buttons, but they know the buttons. So I love this tool. It's not even something that I've used, but I love the idea of using it. I've had other ways of practicing the pause, but this is such a good tool, so thank you for sharing.
Yay! Yes, and it's just, again, it's just that it's so simple, but it's actually having that physical connection as a reminder. Like, do something physically that's going to remind you to take that pause, ask that question, and then move on with whatever it is you're going to do in the space. And like you discussed last week, there are times that even with that, we're going to just have the stimulus and we're going to react. And then we're going to talk about the makeup at another time. So we want to just thank you guys so much for joining us. For those of you that are here live, thank you for being here live. We're going to go onto Zoom now and put in the link so that you guys can join us in the come on live on the Zoom with us, and we're going to go into our conversation and support group. So thank you guys, and we will see you next week at 9. We will be here live again.
Yes, and if you are watching or listening on the podcast, there'll be another episode coming for you all next week. It'll be released on Thursday. And until we meet again, keep healing.
It will be released on Thursday.
We have another episode on
the episode
Thursday,
for that. Yeah. And then for those of you that want to come on to this, we do it on Tuesdays.
Correct.
So
yeah.
Awesome. All right. We'll see you guys live in a few minutes in Zoom.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.
Thank you for tuning in to Imperfect Momming. It's time for us to step up and realize that our power is not in trying to shape our children. Our power lies in shaping ourselves into the people we want our children to model themselves after. Don't just do it for your kids. Do it for yourself. When you become a more self-aware, compassionate, and confident person, you and everyone around you benefit. For more information about me and my work, visit AliciaLyons.com. That's ALYSIALYONS.com. See you next time.